No, that is not some random hilltop village in Wales. That is Chelsea's record in all competitions since spending £500 million in January. Chelsea, right now, are closer to getting relegated in April than being in the top 4. They're closer than getting relegated than being in the top 6. This is a perfect scenario for me as a content creator because I can do this video and that fans of rival clubs of Chelsea will love it, and even Chelsea fans would probably still love it because I think it's stuff too. Chelsea currently stand 11th place in the Premier League, 10 points above the relegation zone. Since spending £500 million in January, you know you messed up when you've spent £500 million in one window halfway through a year, and then the fans are saying that we need a rebuild. How can you need a rebuild? Tell me your thoughts down below in the comments. Tell me, why do you think Chelsea are in such a mess? Ignore all of the money. Even without the money, with the players that he had at the start of the year or even now, you could have me at Chelsea and I guarantee I can win more than 3 games after 16. Just tell them to have fun. Oh wait, that is what they're doing now under Lampard. Just have fun, lads. Tell me your thoughts down below. If you're new here, then please do smash a like button. Let's try to hit 3,000 likes, and also subscribe if you're new. Shout out to all the patrons of the channel. These legends help me do what I do and help me out every single day, so thank you, boys. And also, most importantly, thank you to all the support on mazzoladesigns.co.uk, my own design company. We have had 100 orders in the last day. Yeah, the Manuel Benson design, saying that it's blown up is not even doing it justice. It is ridiculous how well you guys have received it, so thank you so much. Link is down below. Use code Benson for 10% off, and we got a ton of designs from the majority of Prem clubs and also national teams too, so go and check it out. And let's get straight into the video. I put out a tweet saying I'm doing a video on Chelsea and to ask Chelsea fans to say, what is the simplest way to describe your season? A mess, embarrassing, laughable, take your pick. Cheers, Con. But in all seriousness, this is an actual explanation. Feel it saying lack of a spine, striker, DM and goalkeeper. Managers, too many players brought in, but doesn't mean that there isn't a plan. There's a very good plan. And also bringing in very important directors and injuries. And a lot of this is accurate, but let's break down to the most important part here. For me, the most fundamental reason of why this year for Chelsea has been an absolute collapse and an absolute disaster, and that is one very simple decision. Sacking Thomas Tuchel 6 days after the summer transfer window, while also buying a ton of players purposely for him. Idiotic. Words can't even describe how dumb of a decision that is. In no business, in no way of life will you spend that much money on one person or for one system or for one idea, and then when you buy the things that you need to complete that, you get rid of the reason why you put them in the first place. You don't run a plumbing business and then buy all the materials and gear that you need to have a plumbing business and then decide, you know what, I don't want to do plumbing anymore and I want to be a decorator. You bought all the plumbing stuff, what are you going to do with that now? Anyway, back to the actual point here. Tuchel was an elite manager, despite all the problems that he had to deal with. Tuchel won Chelsea the Champions League against pretty big odds against beating Man City. Thomas Tuchel did a fantastic job last year too, getting to 2 cup finals and only missing out on a penalty shootout 2 times in a row, which is very unfortunate. And the craziest thing is that they went from Tuchel to Potter and then Potter to Lampard out of their own choice. They voluntarily downgraded managers each time. Now, of course, when it does come to Potter, I do feel quite bad for him because at the time, let's not forget how many people were looking at Potter with excitement. He was the next potentially great manager with a lot of potential and was doing a fantastic job at Brighton, and everyone expected when he left Brighton, go to Chelsea, that Brighton would potentially start falling off because he was the man behind it. But now, with hindsight, we now find out that the philosophy at Brighton was more powerful than Potter himself. It is unfair to say that Potter was a bad managerial appointment because of the fact that every single person felt like he was a great manager, and I still think he is a good manager. My problem is 2 things. Number 1, inexperience. This is not just for the manager, but also for the players. They have got a 36-man squad, and a large majority of the team are new and also new to the team. The large majority of their team have only been there for a year or so. Alongside that, also the owner. The owner in Todd Bowley is also vastly inexperienced as a football chairman, and is still, to this day, learning on the job of how to properly run this football club. And then there's Potter, who, of course, has been a manager for a couple of years, but not at a top level. And to add 3 parts of this all together, you can throw as much money as you want, but it's never going to work out without stability. And the one thing that Chelsea isn't really ever is stable. They have got 36 players in their current squad, which is quite a lot, and to show how much it is, they literally have to have Chelsea players in their squad get changed in the hallway outside the dressing room because they literally don't have enough space for them. That's how big the squad is. Now, next up, let's get into injuries. Now, I know that injuries is a bit of a taboo topic at times because people believe that it's just an excuse. Every club has injuries and that you're nothing special for having injuries too, but I think it is important to highlight that the players that have been injured are very key players, and some with great experience to add some actual core to their team. Throughout the entire year, they've had many injuries going to the likes of Reece James, Mason Mount, Thiago Silva, N'Golo Kante, and Ben Chilwell, a lot of them out for a good chunk of the season. Missing the likes of James, Silva, Kante, even Chilwell, they are fantastic players for the team, and Mason Mount, even though many people have been giving him a lot of stick and critiquing him, which at times I think is fair and sometimes are not fair, he is still one of the main creative players, and with him gone, they definitely do lack that creative edge, as we have very much seen, as they are simply not scoring goals. And why aren't they scoring goals? Well, they've not got a striker, which sounds crazy, but with all that money, with all those players, they've not got an actual out-and-out number 9. You can say that Aubameyang is a number 9, but I think for the way that Chelsea needs a number 9, I think he's too similar to what they already have. They've got a ton of wingers, a ton of forwards, a ton of creators, but not a finisher. Raheem Sterling is not a finisher. Kai Havertz, not a finisher. Mudryk, Ziyech, Pulisic. I mean, there's so many players in that team that are creative, good players, but in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net, you can't rely on any of them, can you? You can say that Sterling has scored many goals for Man City, but if you see the way that he scored those goals, the way that City play in that system is very, very unique in how he found a lot of those goals. Very well created positions from, basically tap-ins from the back stick. That was a large chunk of his goals. You need a number 9, a focal point to drag you, and, well, Chelsea are known for having very bad luck with number 9s. I mean, where can we begin? I mean, Lukaku, for example, I thought was an absolute sure thing, and guess what? He is still there on loan, so there is nothing to say that he can't still be there at Chelsea next year. And I'll be honest, looking the way that Chelsea are looking right now, I would not be surprised if Chelsea fans may turn their opinion on him and give him another chance. Lukaku, in all reasonings of how I think Chelsea are playing and what they need as a focal point in that team, I would think Lukaku would be perfect, which blows my mind of how it did not work in the first place. This year, they focused on playing Kai Havertz in that number 9, kind of a false 9 spot, which is a definition of a square peg in a round hole. He's never a number 9, maybe a shadow striker at a push, but he's not there to be the main man. When speaking to a Chelsea fan the other day, when Chelsea lost 2-0 at home to Brentford, I talked to him about the lineup, and he said this to me: I have absolutely no idea what formation we're playing, with N'Golo Kante playing as a right mid and Conor Gallagher doing whatever he felt like. No clear passage of play, just passing it to random players and hoping for the best. Hoping for a moment of magic, and that is how I see Chelsea. Too many individual players, and with so many of those players being new to the team, they all have something to prove. They all need to prove themselves, and with the chances that they get, they've got to go all out to make themselves stand out almost, which means that the pressure causes them to play for themselves as an individual to make themselves stand out, other than playing for a team and part of a system, if that system does exist. Because defensively, they've not been that bad, despite having a -5 goal difference, which is embarrassing by the way. They've only conceded 35 goals, which in the grand scheme of things would put them as, I can't believe I'm saying this, for a team in 11th. With 35 goals conceded, that puts them the 3rd best defence in the league. The 3rd best defence. The only teams better is Newcastle with 26 and Man City with 29. The entire problem is the attack, which is, again, mental, considering pretty much the main chunk of their signings have been attackers. When you look at Chelsea in a lot of their games this year, they haven't been batterings. They have been what my friend described as Louis Beneventi as a slow death. A slow death that you know will inevitably end to sadness. However, because of how close the game is, you always hope that that one moment of quality can get you over the line. However, it never comes. Chelsea has had as many wins this year as Bournemouth. Let that sink in. So what's happened then tactically on the pitch? What's happened? Well, Todd Bowley went from Thomas Tuchel to Graham Potter. Tuchel, as we all know, we all knew his quality, and I feel like the timing of it made absolutely no sense, as we already have said. Sacking a manager 6 days after they already made all the signings is ridiculous. And then he brought in Graham Potter, a young, highly potential manager, English manager with good experience in European competitions and also in the Premier League. He's worked and grinded his way up, and at the time that they expected Graham Potter to fail at Chelsea the way that he did, his record was atrocious at Chelsea. Managing 31 games, winning 12, drawing 8 and losing 11 times. And you could tell that he never really had a set style of play, changing his formation multiple times. Starting with a 4-2-3-1, then to a 4-3-1-2, then to a 3-4-2-1, back to 4-2-3-1, then 3-5-2, then stuck with the 3-4-2-1 for quite a length of time, then changing to a 4-3-3, a 3-5-2 flat, then back to a 4-3-3, then a 4-2-3-1, and then finally stuck with a 3-4-3. The tactics changed every week, and that is a massive problem. To manage a football club, you need consistency, and consistency is one thing that he never had, and without one thing clicking, he kept trying to change things, and this ends up in a death spiral that you are forever trying to find a way around things. But when you're trying that, you can never have a solid set style of play, because you're always trying something new and players are always trying to adapt. Another problem as well alongside that is obviously the players. As we already know, 36 players in a squad is ridiculous, and I'll be honest, I don't think any manager in world football will get any success out of this team in its current form. I mean, Tuchel went at the end of the day because of Todd Bowley, because Todd Bowley wanted to have his ideas, his ideology implemented into the club. If it's by tactics, if it's by transfer recruitment, if it's by even tactics, I'm guaranteed that he got involved in many ways. And I think that the tactic, how he changed the squad so fast, represents that. And by having all these new players, you're consistently changing teams and personnel. To number one, try to manage players and keep all of them happy because they are human and they want to play football. And especially when they're being bought for a lot of money, there's expectations for them to play. However, there's simply not enough minutes on a football match to actually get them on the pitch. Potter is a great manager and I still believe that, but the situation at Chelsea was completely unique and needed a certain type of manager to be in that role. And I don't think really any manager would get any sort of success in this season with this current squad in this situation. And now with Potter gone, they've now brought in Frank Lampard just to see the season out. They've wheeled out Lampard again to try to get some good vibes back in the club. And has it worked? No. He has been in the job for 5 games and checks notes. Lost 5 games. Granted, if we are being fair, 2 of those games was Real Madrid, but in those 5 games, they have scored once and conceded 9 times. Frank Lampard has been wheeled out to try to bring back some good positive vibes, and it has clearly not worked because he's just not that good of a manager, especially in this situation. It's pretty much like placing me in a Formula 1 car. No chance, I'm crashing into every single wall possible. Saying that, I don't think I'll even stop the car. So all of this all ends up going to one person, and that is Todd Bowley, who of course, when buying Chelsea, promised that he would put £1 billion into the infrastructure of the club within the first 5 or so years. This was a promise, of course, to Roman Abramovich that the club would get investment immediately and wouldn't just be not invested into. It'd be a guarantee, and you cannot say that he's not invested. The problem is he's done it all at once and into the wrong areas. Was this on purpose? Did he have to spend all this money at once? Well, there was some rules that would be changed at the end of this year, that the way that they've done their contracts with their long-term contracts and many of their players that they brought in, they knew that they can't do it after the season because of new rule regulations. So that could be one big reason of why they've done all these long-term contracts with all these players immediately in January. However, one big thing is the fact that they've spent so much money at once that due to financial fair play, FFP, it means that they are now being limited of how much they can actually spend in the future. So they went all in with this ideology, with these players, and they're going to have to stick with it. Many players will be leaving in the summer. Many players such as Ziyech, Pulisic, Aubameyang, either one of Mendy or Kepa, because you can't have two quality keepers at once and one on the bench. Thiago Silva might decide to leave, Cucurella or Koulibaly may also go, Kovacic might go, Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount could also go. 80% of the team right now are on the chopping block to be sold in the summer, because they simply have to get rid of at least 15 players in the summer. Surely, right? I mean, you would think they would have to. I mean, again, the fact that they spent so much money and fans are saying that they need a rebuild is possibly the biggest disaster I've ever seen in football history when it comes to finances. How can you spend $500 million in one window and then people saying that you need a rebuild? Complete disaster. And he's got one big decision to come up, and that is with his next managerial job. Who will take over the job at Chelsea in the summer? And it is very, very likely that it will be one man that is a very interesting name, especially when it comes to Chelsea, and that is Mauricio Pochettino. Now, straight away, tell me down below, do you think Poch is a good signing or not? I mean, when it comes to Todd Bowley's recent history of his poor decisions, probably will be a bad decision. Let's go into the cons first, right? There's some red flags, okay? Immediately, the fact that Poch is simply the Spurs ex-manager for many years, and when it comes to a fan base, that very rarely works out well. If he has any sort of poor form, the fans will be very easy to turn on him. People may say that is not true, but we've seen it at many clubs that if you have a manager from your rival club at your club, if they don't do well and they don't completely turn things upside down, the fans will easily turn on him if things go sour. Also, another big red flag is his incredibly disastrous time at PSG, showing that he at times can be incapable of managing top talents, elite talents. Although many great managers have gone to PSG and fail as much as Poch did, with the fact he didn't even win the league. But is that maybe being unfair? I mean, having the likes of Messi, Mbappe, Neymar in one team, I mean, that also does sound like a very big job, a very big ask. But let's get into the pros and why Poch may work. Poch is proving that he's a good coach, and especially with young players and building good young players at previous clubs like Southampton, Espanyol, and obviously Spurs. He's got great history of turning young players and building on their potential. It does make some sense when you think about it. When you have a club with a ton of young players, you want a manager that has got great history of turning young players into great players. And when it comes to Poch, he's got one of the best records in football. So in that sense, it does make sense. And to be fair to him, PSG weren't stable when he went there. However, at the same time, neither is Chelsea. Chelsea is not stable in the slightest, with not only the players being put over the place, but also tactics and also staff and also chairman. Everything is not stable right now. So that'd be interesting to see what may happen to him. I'm going to end it off right there. Tell me your thoughts down below about what you think is happening at Chelsea and how do you expect them to build on this for the future. This year, they will end up being mid-table, 10th, 8th, 11th place potentially, and are guaranteed to not be playing European football next year. Could that be a blessing in disguise? For the next season, not having that European football and extra games, they can completely focus on the league, and maybe that could be a positive. They've got the players there, they have got immense talent and potential. They need a steady pair of hands with experience of managing young players to bring that potential to life, and I would really like to see Poch do well at Chelsea. However, when rival managers goes to their rival clubs, it very rarely works out. I'm sure that you can give one example of maybe one time it's worked out well, but I'm pretty sure for the most part, it very rarely does. But I like Poch as a person and I hope it works out well. Tell me your thoughts down below in the comments. Please do smash a like. Let's try to hit 3,000 likes and also subscribe if you're new. And again, Nazala, incredible. We've had 150 orders in the last 2 days, which doesn't sound real, but it is. And it's mental. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.